Hi, my name is Miss Townsend. Welcome to Math with Townsend. This is my second video of Algebra Review, Substitute and Evaluate for my grade 10s. So I'm going to take up two questions in this video, and each of them involve substituting in values. Specifically, we're substituting in x equals -4 and y equals 3 into the expressions. So in question 17, I have this expression, which is a fraction. But that's okay, I'm not worried about anything. The first step is to rewrite the expression with my substitution done. So I have 2y minus x squared divided by 5. So again, you've seen me do this in class. I talked about it in the other video. When I'm doing substitution, my first step always looks like this. And then I go back and I fill in the brackets. It just helps my brain keep track of one thing at a time. And I know for me, I'm less likely to make a mistake. So now let's look at what math we have to do first. So BEDMAS means bracket exponent. It's the order of operations. We know that. One thing you may not know is that in every fraction, there is a secret invisible bracket around the numerator and a secret invisible bracket around the denominator. So I've just drawn it in green using a slightly different shaped bracket. But it's to help you understand sort of what do I do first here? Because the numerator has a lot of math going on, and because it's a numerator, it's its own thing inside of a bracket that we don't have to write. So I need to evaluate what's happening in the numerator before I deal with the fraction and the denominator of 5. So let's see what math I have to do. So inside that bracket, I've got a 3. So all I have to do here is multiply by 2. Then I'm subtracting, so that comes way later. Here I have a bracket with -4, and that -4 is squared. So inside of these brackets in the numerator, I just have a number, which means the first thing I'm going to do is -4 squared, because that means I'm working inside of the numerator bracket, and I'm doing the exponent step. So the numerator, and again, I'm just going to put this green bracket here. I think it helps if you're sort of, just coming along in your algebra career. And certainly you can do more than one step at a time. Some of you probably already did. But I'm just going to stick strictly to BEDMAS because I assume if you're watching this video, you maybe didn't get the right answer and want to really follow step by step how to do it. So all I did there is I squared -4. So let me just remind you that the negative sign here is still the negative sign here because it means at this point either -1 times the bracket or subtract. Either way, I can't do anything with it. I can't do multiply and I can't do subtraction if I haven't done the exponent up here. So I did -4 squared, which as we know is -4 times -4, which is 16. So that's why I now have 16 here, positive 16, and the negative sign is still there. So now what? So now in the numerator, I'm going to look for multiply. And I have 2 times 3. So 6 minus 16. And again, just because I like the visual of it, this is sort of what I have to be dealing with. I need to completely evaluate the numerator before I worry about the denominator and how it's going to affect my number. So 6 subtract 16. That's all I have left to do in the numerator. And 6 subtract 16 is -10. And now I have just a number in the numerator and a number in the denominator so I can evaluate. So it's a fraction, and it's not just a fraction. It's a fraction that completely simplifies to -2. If my fraction was something like -10, hold on, let me pick a different number. If my fraction was something like -12/8, then my answer would be a fraction still, because -12 divided by 8 doesn't give a whole nice integer. So what I would do is I would divide the top by 4, and I would divide the bottom by 4, and that's what my answer would look like. But this case is even nicer because we just get -2. No fraction left over. How nice. And I think I've got one more that I want to do in this video. It's question 18. So again, we're going to be substituting values for x and y. But first, let's worry about one thing at a time. I have 4 bracket y squared plus x, and then close the bracket squared. So I need to substitute for y the value of 3, and for x, -4. So being careful with our Bedmess rules, I have 4 times a bracket. That bracket has an exponent, so I know the exponent is going to happen before that 4 happens. But before either of them happen, I have to deal with what's inside the bracket. So let's do that next. So I'm still writing 4 bracket something and then squaring the bracket. So inside the bracket, I've got little brackets, but there's no math inside of them. Okay, and then I have an exponent. So 3 squared is 9. And then 9 plus -4. So I'm still going to deal with the bracket. So 9 plus a negative just means 9 subtract. So 9 minus 4 is 2. And now the bracket has been completely evaluated. And I can now say, okay, I've finished the bracket. Now what? Well, now what is exponent? 5 times 5 is 25. And finally, I can do 4 times the bracket. And the bracket's 25. 4 times 25 is 100. A nice number. I hope that's helpful. Keep practicing your math.